Hi everyone, welcome to another virtual session by Startup Grind Pakistan. My name is Arzish. I run Startup Grind in Pakistan as the country manager. I also run an organization called Ijad Labs, where we try to help Pakistani companies, especially in the IT domain, grow by hosting events, running different programs. And recently, we started something called Ijad Plus, which essentially helps you set up your US company in one go. With this, I would like to introduce today's session. Most of the people, all of the people in this session happen to be my friends, and it is a pleasure to kind of, provide this platform to make this happen because a lot of the times, the general a consensus is that all Pakistani startups are like very local, but we wanted to highlight these amazing founders who have started from Pakistan, who are very much, based in Pakistan as well. But their startups are targeting the global market and have grown really well over the years. Uh, Before introducing the speakers, I'd like to introduce the amazing moderator for today's session. So we have Shehab, who's the co-founder and editor-in-chief for Startup Guide Pakistan, the coolest startup magazine in the country. Three of our speakers here, we have Waqar Azeem, who's the CEO of Content Studio, uh, a global startup operating from Pakistan. Then we have, let me check. Okay, so Usman Butt in the arrangement that you can see on the screen has the CEO of RepairDesk. They have a very big team out here in Gulberg, which is located very close to my office. But due to COVID, we haven't been able to physically meet. But hopefully soon we'll solve this issue as well. And then we have Osama Abid, the CEO of InventHub, who has recently raised a round from Fatma Ventures and a couple of others investors as well. With this, I'll just hand it over to you all, and then you can kind of share your detailed journey during the session as well.
Thank you, Azish. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. And thank you for joining us for today's session. And thank you to the speakers as well for joining us. Before we go into how to set up a global business and what are the prerequisites and everything, if all of you can just briefly introduce yourselves, how you started out, how you formulated your company, and the brief journey, and then we'll go ahead.
Thank you so much. My name is Usman. Pleasure to be here. I'm the founder at RepairDesk. It's a cloud-based point-of-sale software that is designed exclusively for independent cell phone repair stores. As for education background, I studied business and IT with a major in finance. It sounds pretty cool, but I wasn't good at any of those. So I started a job in sales back in 2009. Um, so uh, when I started my job, I had no clue about how the IT industry works. I was kind of a student where who will take the login page source code from one friend, registration code from another friend, and then combine and show it to a customer, show it to a teacher, so he can grade me. Uh, I went to a software house. I worked there for 15 months. I learned how the software industry works. And I started doing freelancing. Within 9 months, I was making 10x of my salary. I left my job and I started a small web design firm. I did that for 4 years. And back in 2014, I realized that the service industry is going to decline because there are a lot of freelancers are coming in. And at that point, we decided to pivot and make our first product, which was RepairDesk. We launched in 2015. We got incubated in Lum Center for Entrepreneurship, raised our first angel round from an Indian American. We met on LinkedIn, and he decided to invest money in our company without even meeting me in person. So, yeah, right now we have a team of around 70 people in Lahore. We have we are incorporated in Delaware C Corp, and then we have a company in Pakistan. Within 6 years, our company has grown from zero customers to almost 1,850 paying customers in more than in more than 50 countries. So yeah, that's a quick overview of where we are.
Yeah, so I'll go next. My name is Usama. I'm the founder of InventHub. In terms of background, I'm an electrical engineer. I've graduated from ITU 3 years ago. I started off with a career with another startup, DIY Geeks, where we used to make these hardware kits. It was intentionally to actually kind of like bootstrap InventHub back then, which was like, quite a cut down version of what it's today. I did it for like 2 years. We generated a lot of revenue, but it wasn't growing well, and it didn't help much in kind of bootstrapping InventHub. So I had to call it off. I started working on InventHub late 2018. That's the time when I went to Silicon Valley, in a global accelerator program that was run by Nust. I met Tim Draper there on a Draper University hero training. Pitched them my idea. He liked me as a person and the idea, and that's where I raised my first check on an idea stage. Came back to Pakistan, formed an engineering team, brought people over from DIY Geeks, and started building the product. Since then, I've been working on it and growing. So we've raised another round previously, and yeah, that's pretty much about it.
All right. So yeah, my name is Waqar. I am the CEO and co-founder of ContentStudio.io. Content Studio is basically a social media and content marketing app that is used by businesses, brands, and agencies worldwide to streamline and automate their social media and content marketing operations. So we launched back in 2017, late 2017. It was actually before launching Content Studio, like officially the product that is right now available. We had an idea to build basically just a WordPress plugin. There was a couple of years back, viral websites were pretty popular. The BuzzFeed types and the viral Nova type websites. So we decided that we should be building a WordPress plugin that should help businesses and publishers to find trending content and then publish it on their websites automatically. So that's how Content Studio was born. The initial idea was just to find trending and viral content, news type of content, and then publish it on the website. So later on, we got lots of customers in that niche, and as we got more feedback from the customers, the product kept evolving, and we got more features. The customers asked that we should be building more features towards the social media management aspect of the tool. So we started building those kind of features. So yeah, since then the journey has been amazing. And in 2019, we went to Spain to represent Pakistan in Mobile World Congress, and that was funded by Jazz in Pakistan. And later on, we were incubated in Sweden, Stockholm. There is an accelerator called Sting. So we went through that accelerator as well. And just right off the accelerator, we went to AppSumo, which is basically a SaaS kind of marketplace where you can advertise your product, and they have lots of entrepreneurs and businesses who basically buy your product. So that was a pretty good, huge revenue boost for us. And once we went through AppSumo, then I think we got a lot of customers, got a lot of reviews. People got talking about our product, and that's how the journey, really got the push. And right now, we are serving more than 70,000 users around the world, and we have grown our team by 2x. We were 14 people at the start of 2020. Now we are 35 employees, and we are based out of Islamabad, and we have a company in Sweden, Stockholm, and now we have just incorporated in the US as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that inspiring introduction to all of you. So, you guys have been doing this for a while, right? And there's a saying that one should always, especially for entrepreneurs, that one should always think global and act local. And I think that you guys must have been practicing that, of course, for all the years that you've been operational. So, in terms of mindset and also in terms of the resources, what do you think are some of the prerequisites that an entrepreneur needs in order to build a global business? Usman, your mic is on mute.
Okay.
This is one of my favorite questions. People ask me a lot because I've seen that a lot of businesses, a lot of startups are focusing on problems that are local, and uh, and the problem is while they're working on a problem, whenever they come up with an idea, they don't go for a market research. So before we talk about resources and mindset, I believe the prerequisites if you want to start a global business is you whenever you come up with an idea, you need to see that okay, if the idea is large enough. Okay, I've seen that startups whenever they come up with an idea, they just go and develop a product. So they need to do proper market research. There are multiple tools available to do research. And second is ideas are nothing. Execution is everything. So even if your idea is, if you're building a replica of MailChimp or Content Studio, for example, it all depends on your execution. So, and similar is the case with us. When we started RepairDesk, there were already software platforms that were available online, which are pretty much offering the same services. So what we tried to do was offer a better alternative with a better user experience, with a better customer support and better software pricing. Uh, so Pakistani companies have a fair advantage over companies based out of US because if we go and hire a software engineer, it is 5 or 10 times cheaper than a software engineer in the US. So, whenever you want to go global, whenever you want to come up with the idea, execution is everything. Um, and then, and my brother used to say, and it kind of resonates a lot with me is, कि डॉलर में बरकत बहुत है, ठीक है. So because of this cost difference, let's say even if you have 100 customers, 200 customers, you can pay for a really big team. So that's my take on that.
I think Osama probably got disconnected. I think, Waqar, would you like to go next?
Yeah, definitely. I can go next. So yeah, um, I think one of the main problems that I see with most entrepreneurs is they get too overwhelmed by looking at the new ideas that are happening globally. I mean, you know, when Uber came, then we started to see all kinds of ride sharing startups. I mean, there are different startups that came that some of them obviously got funding, and some got really good going, but some failed as well. And then slowly the trend started that everyone is building marketplaces now. That's what I see, at least mostly in Pakistan. And coming from a SaaS industry, I see that there is a huge gap in building SaaS applications from Pakistan. I mean, if we see our neighboring country, India, and I'm amazed to see that there are so many software as a service companies coming out of India and even Bangladesh, that I don't see that many from Pakistan. So, which is quite astonishing, because we have the talent in Pakistan. We have, I mean, the resource and everything in there, but unluckily, the entrepreneurs are not ready to jump into the SaaS market right now. I don't know what's the reason, but yeah. So one advice to entrepreneurs is to definitely look into this SaaS market. And the problem that I see mostly with entrepreneurs is that they come up with an idea, they don't validate it, and the idea is not revolving around the problem. So one of the things that I have noticed in my career is that whenever we start to develop something without being a problem on the back end, it doesn't work out well. I mean, there should be a problem that you're solving. That should be the first starting point. So if there is a problem, for example, in our case, there was a problem of finding viral content, finding news content initially, but we later on expanded it to finding all types of content in Content Studio. So there was a problem, and we tried to solve that, and that clicked, and that's what got attention of the audience, and they got to use Content Studio. So the problem and the solution should be built around the problem. And then the next step is probably the market research. Like once you have found the problem, then you should talk to people who can be your potential customers, talk to them and ask if they would be ready to pay if you build that solution. Not just getting their idea, like how does it sound, is it cool, but are they ready to pay when you build it? Yeah, that's very important. And then go into building that product and then do it quickly. I am kind of the person who likes to work in a fast pace. We like to make things, we like to break things. We should be building fast and testing fast. Building an MVP in like 3-4 months or maybe 6 months max, and then going into the market as soon as that is ready. One thing I have seen, and even I was stuck in that loop of perfection. Having everything perfect, all the features and all the use cases should be solved, and then we are going to launch. I think this is the wrong approach. The idea of MVP is to have a product that is that is kind of solving the problem, and it's ready to go to the market. So just launch it, and once you've launched it, go to the customers again, who you have researched, and then get their feedback if the product really solves the problem that it was intending to solve. And if it does, then obviously you would get a lot of continuous feedback, and then you can build your product on top of it. So yeah, there are lots of phases of building a business, and not just product. It can be about any kind of business. The same set of rules can be followed. So yeah, I think we need to think about global problems as well. So as I talked initially in my conversation to this question, that we see a lot of startups from India. So for example, I don't know about any CRM that is coming out of Pakistan. For example, they have Freshworks, they have Zoho, they have Odoo, they have lots of other smaller players in the market as well. And similarly, they have lots of social media apps, they have lots of other sales tools, but that is not the trend in Pakistan. So we don't need to only sell in Pakistan, but we can market these tools easily in the international market as well. And that's what I think my takeaway is, and my advice to all the entrepreneurs is that we should think about global problems, especially around the B2B industry and the businesses, the problems that businesses are facing around the world, and we should build products on top of it.
Absolutely. I think Usama is back. So Usama, if you would like to take that question. He's
looks
gone.
like Usama dropped again, but I would like to add over. Oh, Usama is back. So
sorry, I had a bad internet reception. So where are we?
So yes, I'll just repeat the question that we were just discussing the philosophy that one should think global and act local, right? And so in terms of the mindset and in terms of the resources, what do you think are some of the prerequisites that entrepreneurs need and they should have in order to build a global business?
So yeah, I initially skipped introduction of my own company. So InventHub is all about connecting hardware engineers all over the world to work together collaboratively while not being in a physical vicinity, which is not the case today without InventHub. These companies use multiple softwares to do the same thing. So having in terms of the mindset or the resources, I think the broad thing to these is having a product market fit. So a lot of the founders that I meet in like local market, what I see is that they've been working on these like local examples. One reason I see is like them not having the exposure. Second, them not doing the research around how they can think about company at large, and then focus on one market. So yes, it's not bad to pull off companies that are just specific to the local market, but then you need to realize that what's the kind of customer adoption that you have, what's the kind of capital that's available in the market, how long will it take you to get to a point where you have enough capital that you can grow aggressively in the local market even without having investors or capital from other instruments. So this is one case, and then having a product market fit where researching on uh, what's the use case or what's the problem that you're trying to solve, how many people actually face that problem, and can you get customers without having a product in your hand. So most of the founders that I met in West are actually working on different products. They make a landing page, they get a sign up list of like 10,000 users if it's a consumer product. If it's a B2B product, they get to have at least like 20, 30 letter of intents from companies who are actually ready to pay after the software is launched, and they've been selling these user interfaces without building the product. So instead of building the product, get the product validation first. If you're actually solving a huge problem and you know what you're doing, you would not like require like building a whole product or having a whole team to just do it. So getting the validation first, and in terms of like resources and mindset, so yeah, again, understanding that if you are doing something or you're solving a problem or you're building a product, it should focus on an entire global market, and see the primary market that you should target, where you can generate enough revenue that you can focus on your like primary market where you are based out of, for example in Pakistan. So even if you are building a next Uber, I think personally that you should be launching it in maybe if it fits like in North America or some other parts of the world where there's enough appetite in terms of like consumer paying for it. And then the way Cream did it, like they launched it in UAE and then expanded in Pakistan and other regions, and became a unicorn. So and then think there's another thing that will add in terms of thinking local, is that resources are very inexpensive in Pakistan. So building an engineering team, building a growth team, marketing team is not that big of a challenge. If you hire an engineer in US, it's going to cost you around like $12,000 to $18,000, based on what region they're in Pakistan. In that amount, you can have a team of like 10, 12 people. Like there needs to be like a quality supervision definitely on top of that, but still there's a lot more that you can do in Pakistan in terms of like tweaking your product, getting feedback, and getting to the product market fit. Since like product market fit like is entire journey, it's not just getting validation from the customers without building the product. It's an ongoing process. So you get the validation, you build something, you take it out to the customers, they don't like it, they like some of it and they want it reshaped. So tweaking that in a little amount and with less resources is much easier in your local market. Another example could be just working with your friends, right? You cannot find friends in other regions, but it's very easy to ask your classmate, or like if you're not from a technical background, finding someone from your school who's in engineering school, getting them to pitch into building something with you is much easier versus finding people in the West, or hiring a proper team before you actually do that. So this validation should not take more than I would say a month or two. The best website I think I've seen is Product Hunt. So maybe just run a Product Hunt campaign with a wait list, and you'll know that if you're building something is needed and it's a global, from the signups or the interactions that you get from the customers over there.
Absolutely. Usman, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, thank you so much, Usama and Waqar, for adding. These are great advices. I believe one of the advice or prerequisite I would recommend is try to work in a niche market rather than going for go and develop a product like CRM. I've seen companies try to create a replica for HubSpot or FreshDesk or Zoho. With it's impossible to compete with them. So try to go and work in a niche market. So you just try to nail it. Another advice I have is before you decide you want to develop a business, have runway cash for at least 6 to 12 months. I've seen that uh, uh, st- uh, founders fresh out of college, they say, okay, we want to change the world, we want to build a business, and they get incubated. And once the incubation period is over, their business is over, they go and start a job. So before you decide to start a business, work for someone. Uh, uh, there's a teacher in LSC. He said even if you want to go and open a petrol pump, go work for someone. Go work on a petrol pump for 15 months. So if you want to open a SaaS business, go work for someone. See, get a skill set, see how they're working, and then build a great team. So you need to find team members that complement your skill set. Let's say if you are good at engineering, go find someone who's really good at sales or who's really good with numbers. So let's say when you start a business, if your co-founders are complementing your skill set. So I believe these are some of the things.
Usman, I would like to add one thing here, or maybe I don't know whether we are diverting from the topic or not, but yeah, Usman,
No, it's okay.
what is your take on, like, for example, you mentioned that I mean, companies shouldn't be building CRMs or products that are already there in the market. So I would like to get your opinion on what do you think? Like, we don't have such kind of products from Pakistan. So I mean, everybody is using Salesforce or maybe Freshworks or maybe Zoho. So that is kind of, we are, sending money abroad, and the dollars are not coming in. So how can we tackle that problem? And do you think, because I am of the view that someone has to do that, someone has to build that CRM that is going to take over the Pakistani market and has to cover, the Pakistani market as well. And then maybe it doesn't target the global market initially, but it can be, tackling the local market first and then maybe go global.
Mhm. Um, Honestly, I didn't have a chance to work with companies in Pakistan, but you know that people are not used to paying for software. Let's say हमने Windows भी लेनी होती है तो हम pirated Windows download करते हैं. So I believe you need a lot of funding, convincing in Pakistan, and that's why let's say if you want to start a software business, don't think global. Don't think local. The moment you think local, I believe your chance to succeed will go down by 90%. Because over here, uh, people don't pay. I don't know if you had an experience working with Pakistani companies, but if you do, you will realize it yourself. If there's a service for $100, uh, they want it for $10. They want it for free because they are your friends. So that's my take on building products for Pakistan.
Yeah.
And I would want to add to this. So like I think building something that already exists is like it's not like feasible. It won't pay you enough. As in, if you have a huge unique selling point. So if we are talking about FreshBooks or HubSpot and Salesforce, they have their own unique selling points or market segments that they've start taken over for a long time. So penetrating a market which is very saturated, that's also like a huge challenge for a company. You will end up investing a lot of money into just kind of marketing the product, and you'll end up making money for sure. if you're a good executive, but then you won't scale that business. So you'll make a good like sustaining SaaS business that will be making maybe around $40,000-$50,000 a month, but that's the best that you can reach. I mean, like, when we talk about startups and we talk about global market, we're looking at millions of dollars or maybe a unicorn coming out of Pakistan. So I would rather suggest working on the companies that or ideas that are unique in the market. Build a CRM, but have a very huge unique selling point over Salesforce and HubSpot, because you are against like these big names who have been there for long too, and they are there to stay. So yeah, that's my take on that.
Yeah, I would just like to add one point here that
No, we just want to also move on to the next question.
yeah, just one point.
Yes.
That was I think you guys have mentioned a very good point that like building the whole replica is, I think, not at all a point anyone should go to. But I mean, yeah, building a CRM with maybe a unique USP, or maybe solving a specific problem that Salesforce or HubSpot maybe doesn't solve, that can be a very good differentiator. And doing that, I mean, there is no harm in, I mean, thinking global and really, grow the company in a very massive way. I mean, setting the goals very high. One of the things I have noticed that most of the entrepreneurs here, they don't set the goals high enough. So I mean, when we are setting the goals, we set them really high, like 10x every year, so that we are able to achieve maybe 6x, 8x, or whatever. So always set the goals high. That is one of the other takeaways as well.
Great. So I think I'll just follow up on the point that Waqar made, and base my question on that. That we are all in Pakistan, and we interact with a lot of entrepreneurs. We see the ecosystem and everything. What do you think is the issue, which is kind of or the challenge that is holding entrepreneurs and business owners in Pakistan, holding them back in terms of spreading their business globally? Like, do you think they don't think big enough? Like Waqar said that we think 10x so that we can achieve 6x, right? So what do you think is the challenge that they face in terms of the resources? It can be anything.
I believe the number one is storytelling. People in Pakistan are great at building great products, but where they lack is selling it to customers globally, and then getting there. Let's say if it's SaaS business, they will build a great product, but let's say if you go on Google, you cannot find about their product, and they are too focused on features rather than customer acquisition. So I believe, let's say when you want to start a SaaS business, build an MVP, get it to the hand of first 10 customers, get their feedback, and you should have a team member who go and start selling to the customers. I believe if you can get your first 10 paid customers, you can get your 100 paid customers. Uh, I have seen many startups unable to get their just first 10 customers. So either they didn't do their market research well, or I don't know what the problem is, but they're not focused on sales. And I believe that's the biggest challenge over here, because there are not a lot. There are great engineers available in Pakistan, but there are not a lot of people who have experience to sell SaaS business out of Pakistan. That's I believe that's sales is number one challenge for me. Businesses out of Pakistan. Usama, Waqar, would love to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, no, I actually second what Usman is saying, that sales is one of the key thing, and that's one of the thing that I see in a lot of entrepreneurs missing out on. Even if we go a bit beyond this stage, like an earlier stage to this, exposure is one of the key thing that's I've talked about before as well. Is also missing in terms of people understanding how to structure a company, what are the things that are components that are needed to pull it off. A lot of people think that they require a lot of capital before they start building something. Hanging out with a brief for a very vague idea, and thinking about raising money. haven't talked to customers. So it all goes down to sales. If you are good at sales, you don't need capital. You just need few customers, and then capital will follow you. The product team will follow you. Everything will fall in place for you. So I see a lot of these founders faring at a stage where they don't have like the capital, and a very vague idea, and haven't done market research, and just thinking about raising money, and complaining about not having funds to do it. So I personally think that's not the case. It's all about sales, selling it to we normally hear about the three fools: friends, family, and fools. So finding out people, if it's a consumer product, in your family, in your friend circle, or fools that you can think of, and finding out customers in the industry that you're targeting, and getting it validated, narrowing it down. Once you're at a crisp stage, nobody's going to say no. Like maybe just your dad would end up investing in your company. And the other thing is the exposure. A lot of the people relate startups to businesses in Pakistan, like as in parents. So they do not let their kids like pursue this until they are at a stage where they're stable in their life, have gone through a professional career, making a lot of like salary, have savings, and for them it's going to be a huge issue in terms of switching, that a lot of people have to support their families, or they're not ready to take the risk. So yeah, these are my thoughts.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I agree with the points Usama and Usman have mentioned. I think, yeah, the one of the main challenge is probably the talent. We don't have specialized talent in Pakistan, because maybe the reason is that probably, for example, we are in Islamabad, and it's not a city like maybe San Francisco or maybe Stockholm or Berlin, where international talent resides and they work in multinational companies. Maybe probably that is the problem, maybe, and that's why we don't get specialized talent. We don't have specialized digital marketers, who are really the master of their fields. We have to teach people. So I have been, doing digital marketing since the last 10 years. And with my brother, we have done a lot of affiliate marketing. And that has come into play while, building the startup. And we have used our experience and the techniques and strategies that we learned while promoting others' products. We have used the same strategies in marketing our product. So the exposure of the talent is a problem. And the talent coming out of universities is not well groomed. That is one of the main challenge that I see right now, because we have grown our team from 14 to 35 this year. And now we are on a hiring spree, but the talent is not really there, the kind of talent that we are looking for. So, for example, there is an issue of ethics. Employees are, the fresh graduates, or the people who have only 1 year or maybe 2 years of experience, and they are not well groomed. They act in many unethical ways. We had a couple of bad experiences last month where, employees committed to us. There is a lot of effort that goes into hiring. 1 month is spent on selecting a candidate, interviewing, and once we have selected that, he has accepted that he is going to join us on this set date, and then just a couple of days before joining, he says, I'm not coming. All the effort, all the time is wasted. And yeah, we had such a couple of incidents last month, and yeah, that made me believe that maybe we need to groom our talent a bit more. I think it has a role from you, the culture, the society has to play that role. We are in a society where we are like, ho jayega, kar lenge, dekh lenge, like that kind of an attitude, where we don't see like how is that going to affect the other person or the other business. So that is the kind of mentality we need to change in the coming years if we are to build great Pakistan, or great companies coming out of Pakistan. And the second challenge that I see that entrepreneurs face is probably coming out of the banking sector or the payments sector from Pakistan. But I think those things are easing up a bit, because right now the government is working with SCCP and banks and all that. and a lot of new a lot of new paths have also opened. Like Ijad Labs can help register a company in US. Similarly, there are other such startups and companies that can help. So yeah, the paths are there now. There were challenges, like when we started, there was no Stripe Atlas, there was no Ijad Labs, or there was no that kind of a company who can help us incorporate in US. But now things are easing up. So I think it's all about acting and putting yourself into action, and yeah, building the product and going into sales from the first day. I mean, start marketing your product from the first day, instead of like building the product and then waiting for the product to complete and then starting the marketing. So it's all about the action right now. No excuses. It's the platform is there, the opportunities are there. There are challenges, obviously, but yeah, I think we need to act now.
Absolutely, great points. We have one question from the audience also, so I'll just read that out, and whoever wants to take it. What quantitative gauge is used to niche market sizing is acceptable?
Interesting question. I believe when you want to develop something, it's not just about the idea is just large enough, or you need to have someone in your team member who's an expert of that who's an expert in that field as well. So let's say if I want to build a CRM specialized for mechanical engineers, which helps them in project costing, or in the let's say in the entire process of developing or manufacturing something. I cannot go and develop that product myself. I need to have someone in the team who actually understand that pain point. So whenever you want to develop something, make sure that you have someone in your team member who actually understand that pain point, and then there are multiple ways to find if the product, if the market is large enough. So that's my take on that.
Shehab, can you say the question again? I missed out the question.
Yes, I think what they wanted to ask was that is there some kind of a quantitative gauge in terms of assessing which niche should be acceptable for a business to cater to?
So I think there's no right or wrong answer. There's no gauge as in terms of like scale. To be precise, like if you're looking at venture capital from the global market, they look at business who can actually end up making at least $8 billion, hit their kind of valuation. Unless your business has the potential, there are different valuation matrices on the internet that help these investors put together a valuation for a company, which also in early stages includes what's the founder background, how committed that person is, what's the kind of traction that person has gained. But they use those scales, so at any given point, if you're generating revenue, if you're not generating revenue, they can gauge and calculate the valuation. So unless your business and the market size is like one of the key factor in that valuation, it's like an $8 billion can be a $8 billion business. They won't invest from the investor perspective. From a generalized perspective, I think gauging if the market is it's done in a literal way. So there are two methods, like bottom to top or top to bottom. The bottom up analysis actually is more like let's say taking an example from my previous startup, we are making these robotic kits for students in Pakistan. So to calculate, how many kids are there in the market, and how many kids are there in Lahore, how many kids are there in DHA. Defense might be the area where people have an appetite to pay for these kind of luxury products. So finding out those, if that's not possible, total houses, averaging out total number of kids, multiplying with the number of houses. These kind of assumptions can help you get a bottom-up analysis. And in terms of getting top-down, figuring out how many youngsters in Pakistan, and then finding out how many are in this age segment, or if you don't know, find a similar country who has the data, cut it down, divide it, and figure out the total number of people that exist, multiply by your product amount that you're thinking of, like the purchase amount or the amount that you can think people can pay pay, and that's going to get you to do the number that you can ideally attain. But always factor in that there will be competitors, people will not like your product, you might make mistakes, thousand things can happen, COVID can happen. So
Absolutely.
Shehab, I haven't worked in a very niche market, so I'll skip this question to not, answer something wrong.
Sure, yes. Okay, so just to wrap up, we've discussed a lot about the market research part and the product market fit and everything, like the business model aspects also, and the niche aspects. What would be considering that you've had experience of working with international clients and of developing all these products, and spending a lot of time actually evaluating all these things that go into determining whether a product is successful or not. So, what would be your one advice to entrepreneurs in Pakistan if they want to go global? It can be from any perspective.
Well, I have many advices, but uh, before you want to start your business, make sure that you have the right set. Have 12 months of runway cash, so that you can at least run your business for 12 months, build an MVP, measure and iterate, go get your first 10 customers, develop a company in US, incorporate a company in US. Job Lab made it so easy. When I incorporated my business, it took me a year to open my bank account. So now I believe you can do that within 2 or 4 weeks. Work hard every single day. Think big. You should not aim to have a business that generates 5,000, 10,000, or $50,000 revenue. Think big. That okay. Obviously, you should not think too big, but at least big enough. Like have a business that generates annual revenue of 1 million in ARR or 2 million in ARR. That's doable in Pakistan. We did that. If I can do that without even learning how to write a single line of code, you guys can do that as well.
So yeah, from my side, I would say that validate your idea first, like before even jumping to the stage that Usman has suggested. Like I would say, just make like kind of like a landing page, or just write it down on some kind of like Notion notepad and share it with people and see if people are getting excited about it, or are they ready to pay. If you tell them that service is live tomorrow, if you get that kind of excitement from a lot of people, and it shouldn't be with like set of like 10, 20, 30 people. When I say a huge audience, it means that at least 1,000 or 2,000 people. You shouldn't start working or building that thing. Maybe iterate that idea at first, and make it crisp, and narrow it down to a point where when you tell it to someone, people say that where is it, I want to buy it. So um, uh, just get to that stage. And as a like I started as a student, so I would say if coming out of school, if you think about 10 different things that you want to build, I would just say put it down on a page, like a landing page or something. Make it on like a drag and drop Wix or WordPress or something, and just launch it out and see how people respond to it, and try it again and again. You'll get a lot of questions, and that will help you understand a lot of things, how customer perceive information and how they see it, and what are the things that you've been missing out on. Instead of like building something first and then taking it out and then realizing, oh shit, I've wasted my time or money or something. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think Usman and Osama have mentioned the right points. I would like to add on those instead of repeating those. So I think the other points that the founders or entrepreneurs should focus on is probably building the right team. I think this is one of the key makers or breakers of your business. I mean, if you are going to have a successful business, you have to build the right team. Instead of saving on a few pennies and hiring mediocre developers or mediocre sales or marketing people, go a bit up in your your compensation range or whatever, and have the right people at the right in the right role, right job, and that will make or break things for you. And the other thing is probably the focus. I see a lot of people, and even I have been having that problem of focus. I mean, I mean, once you are running a business and another idea comes to your mind and you think, oh, maybe that is a better idea, so I should start working on that. So that is probably the worst thing you can do. Focus and do what you are doing, and take that forward. I mean, the focus should be on marketing and selling that product that you're building instead of building another one. And yeah, obviously, if the I mean, if there's not any core problem with the idea, and if it doesn't solve any problem, but yeah, that's a separate story. But yeah, if it does, then yeah, build the right team and focus on scaling that up.
Absolutely. Those are great insights, and I will just check if we have any other questions, and then we will just, I think, wrap up. So thank you for joining us, and thank you for listening, guys. Considering that this was just 50 minutes, this was really, like packed with a lot of great insight that these gentlemen have gained in a lot of years. So thank you for joining us, and thank you, Osama, Usman, and Waqar, for your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Shahab. The player was
Thank
all
you.
mine.
Please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Allah Hafiz.